Hi everyone, I hope you are doing well. Summer here with AstariaSen, and I'm going to do another fairy book review for you. It is for Living the Fairy Life, and it's by, I don't know if I say it, am I saying it right or not, Case or Cac, I'm not sure which. I think Case though, K-A-C, Young, and she's a PhD. And she's also the author of The Healing Art of Essential Oils. So I have some notes here to go over. Oops, there we go. Some notes to go over with you that, just tells you about the book and how I feel about it. I gave this book 5 stars. It's a little more in-depth than the last fairy book I read. But it wasn't like so folklore-y either. The last book I read wasn't very folklore-y, and this one isn't super folklore-y either, but there are some really interesting things in this book, and 2 of them I'm going to tell you about because I highlighted them and I wanted to tell you about. So this book touches on like different things about living the fairy life. How do you know there's a fairy around you? Are you a fairy? How to know that if you might be a fairy. And those are like the lighter aspects of this book. And then it talks about the different levels of the world for fairy. So there's the upper world, the middle world, and the lower world. And, like the upper world's going to be like your air fairies, and the middle world's going to be more, grounded fairies, and your under or your lower world is like your water sprites and spirits. She also talks about like how the upper, lower, middle, all of those have not only corresponding fae, which we just spoke about, but like corresponding oils and crystals that go with the fae for those different worlds as well. And I figured out that through how I work with the fae and stuff like that, I tend to work a lot more with either air, so like upper, or middle. I don't work a lot with a lot of water, so a lot of the lower stuff I'm not involved in that much right now. Doesn't mean I won't ever be, but it's not right now. And I think distinguishing fairies when you're working with them, distinguishing between them is important. And this book covers a lot of that, and like how to connect with the different versions, the different worlds of them. So she also goes in and talks about the sacred act of creating a fairy garden and using that as a solid connection. The act of creating the fairy garden is all about you, how you view the fae, and the kind of interactions that you want from them. If you're protecting yourself from the fae, you're going to have iron, right? But if you want to invite them in, you're not going to have as much iron, or as little as possible. Sometimes it's a little difficult, as we all know. Our world, it's a man-made world out here. So it's the idea of making them feel welcome and providing them with a safe space, like you like having a safe space, right? So she also talks about methods and rituals, like contacting the fairies. Like there's different methods and rituals, and she does one for the upper world, middle world, and the lower world. So I thought that was really cool. She also goes over some basic codes and ethics. We've seen that in a lot of fairy books. There's a lot of fairy books that talk about the please and the thank you and the eating of the food and all of that. So she does touch base on that. She also gives a 4-step process of living with fairies, which I thought was really cool. And that is 1 is to define them, 2 is to welcome them, 3 is to know their culture, and 4 is to make those connections. So that's like the really important things that I wanted to touch base about this book. This book carries a lot. It's well written. I believe that she has had many connections with the fae, and in many different ways. And there's a pretty good bibliography in the back, in my opinion, for sourcing. So I like that too. Now, to the notes that I really wanted to tell you about, okay? Because I liked a lot of aspects of this book. I really did. But there are 2 things specifically that I wanted to share with you that I just thought were so cool. So the first one is, it's on page 70, and of course it's the Kindle version, so I'm gonna have to read you this little mini phrase. It's on page 70, and she says, "They can transform into any of the elements at any time and become the elements of creation. Fairies don't stir up a storm. They become the wind and dance wildly. They don't command the waters to be still. They transform themselves into water and calm themselves from within. They can do this because they deeply love and understand all the elements of nature. And in that spirit of love and unity, they can actually embody the elements. The quote attributed to Gandhi encapsulates the definition of fairy magic. Be the change you want to see in the world. Oh my gosh! How fantastic is that? They're like, it's so perfect. I could not have, there's no way I could have said it any better than that. I love that, right? And then the second one kind of goes with that. And I'm going to talk about my belief in fairy in just a second. But the second one is on page 80, and she says, I prefer to believe that these magical beings would simply manifest wings if and when they needed them. And that was talking about some fae don't have wings, some fae do have wings, why not, all that stuff. And I like that idea that they manifest them, because why wouldn't they, right? Why wouldn't they? How come that never occurred to me before? But, you know, that's where my belief in fae is. Like, she's talking about all of these transformations and these things that they can and can't do, and ways of connecting with them and really getting involved with them. And my tea is just about ready. Sorry about that. But there's this aspect that you'll see them on an energy-based level. And I'm just going to take you with me to get to my tea, because that is very annoying. Excuse the mess of everything else. All right. Turn that off. So it's this, my belief in fairy is the idea that they are very much energy based, and their workings, the way that we see them, has a lot to do with how vibrating they are. How, not vibrating, but like, I guess how high their vibration is at the time, and how high your vibration is at the time. And it's the energy that's surrounding all of that on how you see a fairy. That's my personal opinion. And the fact that they can transform into the wind or into the water or into whatever they need to be and give themselves wings if they need to just fits perfectly with my belief in that. So I really connected with this book. I had a lot of fun reading it. It was a fast read. It was an easy read, but it was also a very inspiring read for me. So if you get the opportunity, I recommend it, especially if you want to start connecting with the fae, see things just a tiny bit differently than normal books, and want a fun, good, wholesome read, I guess, for fae-related stuff. I will leave a link down in the description, so please take a look, and thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a very great day.